Meet Dave Norris.
It was originally, I believe, an Irish bar, and my theme is a Canadian bar.
His latest project, Busters by the Bluffs.
It's kind of difficult to really define what is a Canadian, but I've narrowed it down to rye whiskey and pea meal bacon sandwiches.
Food's great, you know, the people that work there are friendly and courteous. It's a great little spot, and Dave runs a great operation.
In the small town of Scarborough, Ontario, lies the sports pub. Since 1989, Norris has been a regular. And in 2006, he purchased it. After 13 months of stripping it apart and renovating, he now calls it his own.
We have a collection of Montreal Canadiens.
So what makes Busters unique? Hundreds of hockey memorabilia, many personally addressed to Norris himself.
This is the leaf wall over here in the Toronto Maple Leafs. I played with George Armstrong, so he was kind enough to sign. He doesn't like to sign autographs, so he signed some of the paid photos for me, and he actually frequents the place once in a while for a cup of coffee.
The collection also includes legends like Johnny Bower of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins, and Steve Shutt of the Montreal Canadiens. Each signature with a story to tell.
Dave pursued the dream that a lot of Canadians wanted to pursue. He got into hockey, played it professionally in the American Hockey League and the International Hockey League for years, and was a fan favorite everywhere he went.
Norris first laced up his skates when he was 8. At 16, he made it to the Junior B Markham Waxers. The following year, the Toronto Marlboros. Before he knew it, Norris found himself playing hockey in Hamilton, Minnesota, and Indiana, with stops in Nova Scotia, Oklahoma, and Alabama. After 39 years, Norris and former teammate Brian Dillon still go head-to-head. They played for 2 months together before Norris was cut from the Toronto Marlies.
The next practice, Dave showed up at the Markham Hockey Arena, and our coach at the time was Bill White, and Mr. White goes, "Dave," he says, "what are you doing here?" He says, "Well, Mr. White," he says, "I got nowhere else to go." He says, "Can I still practice with you guys?" So Mr. White was a real gentleman, and he let Dave practice with us. And as the season progressed, we ran into injuries, and Dave started. He was back in the lineup again.
Norris was known for his smooth hands and those great shots to his opponents.
When the toughness was needed on the team, the name with Norris on the back of his shirt always got tapped, and he'd be out on the ice.
I always observe the opposition's tactics. Everybody has a tactic on how they approach a fight, how they get into a fight. So I would generally use their tactics against them.
As an enforcer, he's most remembered in his 1973-74 season. He showed how dangerous the OHA junior hockey could be even before the opening faceoff. And Dillon had a front row seat to it all.
I turn around, and there's Wilf Paymont. He's at center ice, on his back, laid out cold. And right away, I knew Dave Norris had something to do with this. And sure enough, Dave suckered Wilf Paymont during the warm-up.
And our team was, struggling when we went into St. Catharines, so I thought, well, might as well take out the best player they got.
And taking out that player made it into the history books. In Blood on the Ice, hockey's most violent moments. In it, sports reporter Stan Fischler writes, "Imagine, for a moment, what hockey would be like if Norris's tactic launched a trend. We soon would have designated hitmen on every team whose sole purpose would be to assault the best players on the enemy side."
I think that's where Dave's career actually started to gel in junior hockey and later on in pro.
In 1975, the 5'11", 185-pound left winger was picked 76th in the NHL amateur draft.
My final year, I was offered a contract from the Montreal Canadiens.
But Norris never made it to the show. 3 games into the season, he got injured. A pull to the knee, and it was all over. With a grade 10 education under his gear, it was time to move on.
I didn't want to start bouncing around the IHL, and my career was over, and it was hard to swallow that pill.
But Norris didn't leave empty-handed.
Life and times of Dave Norris.
He not only has 1 but 3 jerseys hanging in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Phil Pritchard, now the vice president of the Hockey Hall of Fame and keeper of the Stanley Cup, has been close friends with Norris for more than 25 years.
We promote hockey at every level, not just the National Hockey League and not just the Olympics.
At 26 years of age, Norris's hockey days were over, but his new life was just beginning.
If he wasn't born to play hockey, he was born to sell stuff.
Most notably working for the Canadian Hockey League for more than 20 years. Norris was in charge of promotional marketing for all junior teams in Canada, including the OHL, WHL, and the Quebec League.
We put together sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats, hockey jerseys, Memorial Cup rings.
His street smarts and excellence in entrepreneurship led the Norris name to be written in another book, 50 Years of Comets Hockey. It reads, "Everyone in hockey in Canada knows Davy Norris."
If you know what you want in life, 70% of the job is done. 30% is just finding a way to complete the task. I honestly believe that, and it works.
Even after 171 goals, 184 assists, and 1,500 penalty minutes, Norris says his biggest accomplishment is his wife and 4 children who now follow his footsteps in the rink. At 57, Norris still hits the ice every Friday night with the letter C stitched to his chest. But even off the ice, his hockey career as a player and businessman stay alive.
It's a sports bar through and through, and I can just imagine when the Leafs win, they'll have a whole lineup of bars they have to get to. Buster's will be one of them.
And this will be another memory for Busters by the Bluffs.